There are moments in scripture that feel familiar: Moses standing before fire, David facing giants, Daniel surviving lions. But then there is Ezekiel, a prophet whose encounters with God feel unsettling, strange, almost impossible to explain, too symbolic to ignore, too mysterious to dismiss. He did not merely hear the voice of God, he saw things no ordinary man could comprehend: creatures with 4 faces, wheels moving within wheels, eyes everywhere, a valley of dead bones breathing again. A temple unlike anything ever seen. And for centuries, one question has lingered in the minds of readers: why would God speak through visions so strange? Were they symbols, warnings, hidden realities, divine messages wrapped inside mysteries too large for ordinary language? Perhaps the mystery of Ezekiel is not simply about what he saw. Perhaps it is about why he saw it. Because before the visions came the collapse. Before revelation came exile. Ezekiel was not standing in glory when heaven opened over him. He was not surrounded by peace or certainty. He was among broken people, captives in a foreign land, people who believed their story had ended. Israel had fallen into rebellion. Jerusalem stood wounded. The sacred had become corrupted. The people of God found themselves displaced, humiliated, confused, and maybe that is where the mystery truly begins. Why does divine revelation often appear in seasons of suffering? Humans naturally search for God in comfort. We expect heaven to reveal itself during victory, stability, and blessing. Yet Scripture repeatedly tells a different story. Abraham encountered God in uncertainty. Jacob encountered God while running for his life. Job encountered God in suffering. And Ezekiel encountered God in exile. Could it be that collapse creates space for revelation? Could it be that certainty blinds us, while desperation sharpens our spiritual sight? Then suddenly, without warning, heaven interrupted history. Ezekiel says he saw a storm approaching from the north. A storm, not calm skies, not stillness, not serenity. A storm filled with flashing fire and overwhelming brightness. This is fascinating because God often enters human history wrapped in contradiction. Power mixed with beauty, fear mixed with wonder, judgment mixed with mercy, chaos carrying hidden order. And from within the storm emerged living creatures unlike anything found in the natural world. Each creature had 4 faces: a human face, a lion, an ox, an eagle. Strange, almost unsettling, but symbols often hide truths too profound for ordinary speech. The face of a man symbolized intelligence and understanding. The lion represented authority, kingship, and courage. The ox represented labor, endurance, and sacrificial strength. The eagle represented transcendence, the ability to see beyond earthly limitation. And perhaps the lesson hidden inside these impossible beings is this: no single image can contain divine reality. Humans constantly reduce God into categories: loving, powerful, holy, merciful, just. But Ezekiel's vision seems to whisper something uncomfortable. God exceeds every definition we create. Every category fails him. Every explanation becomes incomplete. And maybe that is the purpose of mystery, not confusion, but humility, not to frustrate understanding, but to remind humanity that the infinite cannot be fully captured by the finite. Yet what Ezekiel saw next becomes even stranger: wheels, massive wheels, intersecting wheels, turning without turning, moving in every direction at once, covered completely in eyes. It almost feels impossible to imagine. And perhaps that impossibility is intentional. Because in Ezekiel's world, nations believed gods were territorial. One god ruled the mountains, another ruled rivers, another belonged only to a particular nation. But Israel had lost their homeland, which naturally raised a terrifying question: had God stayed behind in Jerusalem? Had exile separated them from the divine? Then Ezekiel saw something revolutionary. God's throne had wheels, meaning God was moving. God was not trapped in sacred buildings, not trapped in geography, not confined to institutions, not limited by borders. He was present even in exile, even in foreign lands, even in broken places. And maybe this remains one of the deepest philosophical truths in Ezekiel's encounter. Humans constantly try to imprison God, inside buildings, inside traditions, inside systems, inside expectations. Yet God refuses confinement. He moves into places we assume he has abandoned: the prison, the wilderness, the grief, the uncertainty, the exile. And the eyes covering the wheels introduce another unsettling truth. Nothing escapes divine awareness, nothing. The hidden corruption, the secret pain, the quiet injustice, the prayers nobody hears, the tears nobody notices. God sees always, and depending on who you are, that truth feels either comforting or terrifying. Then, just when the vision seems strange enough, something unexpected happens. God gives Ezekiel a scroll and commands him to eat it. Eat it, not study it, not carry it, consume it. Why? Because truth was never meant to remain external. Divine revelation must become internal before it becomes proclamation. The scroll tasted sweet, yet the mission became bitter. And maybe there is a lesson hidden there for all generations. Truth feels beautiful when it inspires us, but truth becomes painful when it demands something from us. People love wisdom until wisdom requires sacrifice. People admire conviction until conviction becomes costly. People celebrate prophets but rarely envy their burden, because once you truly see reality, you can no longer pretend ignorance. And perhaps that is why wisdom often feels lonely. Seeing clearly changes you. Then Ezekiel witnesses something deeply disturbing. The glory of God begins to leave the temple slowly, carefully, step by step, not suddenly, not violently, gradually. And maybe this is one of the most frightening mysteries in all of Scripture. The sacred can become empty, not instantly, but slowly. Compromise rarely feels dangerous in the beginning. Corruption rarely announces itself loudly. People drift. Convictions weaken, truth bends. And eventually, what once carried divine presence becomes ritual without life. Which raises an uncomfortable question. Can people continue religion after losing God? Can worship continue while hearts remain distant? Can sacred language survive while truth disappears? Ezekiel's vision forces reflection because it was never only about ancient Israel. It becomes a mirror for every generation, including ours. But then, just when darkness seems final, the vision changes. Ezekiel stands in a valley filled with bones, dry bones, scattered bones, forgotten bones. A landscape of hopelessness, and God asks him a question that feels strangely personal. Can these bones live? What an unsettling question, because hopelessness often feels permanent. People survive pain, people survive loss, but hopelessness quietly destroys imagination. Yet God asks Ezekiel to imagine restoration before restoration appears, and suddenly the impossible begins. Bones move, fragments reconnect, bodies reform, breath enters, life returns. And maybe the greatest mystery hidden in Ezekiel's encounter is this. God specializes in reviving what humans declare dead. Dead dreams, dead faith, dead nations, dead purpose, dead hope. Perhaps the true question is not whether dry bones can live. Perhaps the question is, what in us have we buried too early? What have we declared impossible that God still calls unfinished? Then finally, after judgment, after sorrow, after mystery, Ezekiel sees one last vision. A temple measured, ordered, sacred. I end the story there, because chaos is never the final word. Judgment comes, but restoration follows. Exile comes, but return follows. Brokenness comes, but healing follows. And in the end, Ezekiel leaves us with perhaps the greatest truth hidden beneath every strange encounter. The final promise was never power, never prosperity, never influence. It was presence. The Lord is there. Perhaps this is the deepest mystery of Ezekiel. God reveals himself most clearly in places humans least expect. In collapse, in uncertainty, in exile, in unanswered questions. Maybe Ezekiel's visions were never meant merely to be understood. Maybe they were meant to awaken us, because mystery is not given to entertain curiosity. Mystery is given to transform perception. And so the question quietly returns to us: if heaven suddenly opened over your life, what would God reveal?